Hello, this is Gio, and this is my toilet. And I've been having some problems with my toilet. Mainly the flushing mechanism hasn't really been working that well, and it appears that my toilet fill valve is not operable. So I purchased this particular brand. I don't need to replace every component in the toilet, but I do want to replace the fill valve, and so that's what I'll be doing today. So the first step is just to remove the lid here. And this is what the inside looks like. You have the fill valve, you have the stopper, you have a little chimney here, water comes into here, fills up the tank, and you can buy kits to replace all these components, or you could just buy individual ones like I did for the fill valve. But the first step is to get rid of this water. Now if you just simply flush, it will start refilling. So you want to turn off the water, and put down the lid, which is typically behind the toilet, either on one side or the other. And normally it is completely open, so that would be that way. To shut it, you just go clockwise until it stops. There you go. And then you can remove the water through flushing. You just flush the toilet. And you can see it's not filling up. And you may want to bring open the stop a little bit more. But there's always water, residual water, left inside the tank. And that is the fun part. You could start just using your hand to slosh it in as best you can. But it looks like we're going to need some a cup or something to finish emptying this toilet. And so I just grabbed this simple plastic cup. I'm going to open up the toilet real quick. And you could put the water you collect back in the toilet. It just goes down the plumbing, and just get as much of the water as you can out. Doing it this way. If you want, you can even get a smaller cup to try to get as much out as you can. So I got quite a bit more out, but you're always left with additional water, and you don't want to start unscrewing this until most of the water is out, or you'll just have a wet floor. So I'm just taking a towel and just putting it down and letting it absorb as much of the excess water as I can. This will pretty much get rid of most of the water, and so you'll have a relatively clean, dry floor at the end of the process. And so try to get the rest of the water out of this toilet. So getting most of the water out, I have a little bit left over there, but it won't spill on me. I have to get this fill valve out of here, and you do that by going underneath the toilet, and you have to unscrew this. So first I'm going to remove the, if I can do this by hand, yes I can. Remove this. This is the water supply, and you've already turned off the valve, so there's a little water left over, but now I probably need a wrench to get this off, so I'll be right back. So I just took some pliers to loosen it, and then I could just remove the rest by hand. And then you could get up on top, and it should just wiggle out. There you go, it's as simple as that. You have to take this clip off, and here you go. And it does have a seal to help seal the bottom, but it's just a hole, and it's this plastic end that's connected to the fill line. So let's open up the new fill valve. Okay, so this is what the new one looks like, and comparing it to the old one, it's generally the same. We could telescope this one up higher, so but it's very similar. One has a metal level controller, the other one plastic, but this is basically the same piece. And it also comes with a new tube here and some additional connections that you have to just take this little piece off and everything will just slip out. So we'll do that. So following the directions, I have all my little pieces here. The first thing is to telescope. So let me just put this down. The first thing is to telescope this to about the height you would like, just to get kind of roughly the proper similar height to the old one, so we don't have to adjust it too much. And that's actually higher than the old one. Hold on, the rest. Let's get in there. Pretty close. A little bit more. And just a little bit more. And that's pretty good for starters. It's very similar height to the old one. So what we do next is we put the seal that will seal the component, and this, we're just popping this out like that, and then putting the seal on the bottom, and this will make sure it's watertight. Okay, and then we just position it in the same way. You don't want it this way because it'll hit the bowl, so make sure that the float is kind of out of the way, and then just slip it through the hole, and then you can just kind of turn this. It doesn't really matter which way this is pointed. You can have it a little bit like that, you can have it a little bit like that, but you generally want it out of the way of any movable object, and then you just go to the bottom and tighten it up with this. Okay, so this was the old one. This is the new one. I might as well use the new one. And then I just twist it on. You probably need two hands, one to hold the top, and I'll do that in just a second. I'll hold one hand up here, up on top, and screw this one in, so I'll screw that. Okay, so I tightened it up, and I just tighten it with my hand, not trying to make it too tight, but tight enough to seal it. It is a plastic component, so you can break it if you tighten it too much. And then I'll just hand tighten the water supply. And again, I'll just do it by hand. If it leaks, I'll double check it, but right now it just should be fine. And then we go back up on top. And there we go. It looks like everything's movable. Looking at the old one, the tube was connected on the side, and so I'm looking for, it's on this side, so I probably need to rotate this a little bit just to get it out. I didn't break it when I twisted it. It has, you could twist it higher or lower. But one thing I want to double check is the height of the top here, and it's pretty close, so I may actually, I think it's going to be okay. So that's probably loosen it and lower it a little bit just to make sure that this will clear the top. So I'll do that. Okay, so I'm a little bit more satisfied. It's just below the rim. And it's always give and take. Sometimes you install these and realize, you have to adjust it a little bit, but that's fine. It doesn't take too long to readjust it. So I take the tube, and I just push it in here. Let me put down the camera for 1 second. I'll push it in. Two hands are needed quite often, so I stick that in. And unlike the original one, which had this little clip at the end, this comes with a much fancier little clip. So what you do is you just Loop it over. Again, trying to do this with one hand is hard, but and then just put this into the top. Again, let's try to do this with 2 hands. So there you go. And basically there's a hole right there that the water drains. Actually, I may actually rotate it on this side so I could kind of tuck that in out of the way. And that should do it. There's a float here that will float up and stop the water flow when it gets a certain height. And then unlike the other one, which had a clip, and this had a little adjustment clip that you could squeeze and bring the float up or down this wire, this actually has a more convenient screw. So you screw this a bit and it goes, the float is adjusted up or down. So I'm just going to stick it, kind of just leave it where it was and turn on the water and see what happens. So I twist the water on, making sure this doesn't leak. And there we go. The water is aiming into the chimney here. It's filling up nicely. And now I just wait to see where the water stops. Okay, so we got about a ½ inch here, which is probably appropriate. I probably want a little higher. It doesn't give me much more height, but let's just see what we can do. Remove some of the water and let it, fill up naturally. And there it stops. I don't know if it got much higher, but this is as high as the float will go. So that should work, and we will test out the toilet. I'll flush it. And it seems to work okay. It's filling up quite well. And the bottom, I don't feel any water leaking, so I think I'm good. Double check this as well, make sure that's not leaking. Sometimes when you maneuver the fill line, this could start leaking as well. I don't feel any leaks, so I don't have to correct anything. If there are leaks, you may want to use some plumber tape or readjust it, unscrew it, maybe tighten it a little bit, but there we go. Very successful. See you next time.